Well, we're back on the AM show, and this morning I am bringing you the news review with a senior colleague. Let me put it that way. Araba Kumsin, a very good morning to you. We don't often see you at this time of morning. So
No. I just decided to surprise you and your viewers. You know, that's my Christmas surprise for you.
Surprise, surprise. So Bronya has started early. Araba, thank you so much for joining us. So let's check out another thing. You know, right before we dig into the papers, I've noticed that the papers are losing weight. They are on a diet.
Of course, around this time, there's very little news. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's expected.
So let's check out what headlines you have there, since there are only 4 papers we're reviewing this morning, and I'll take mine.
And Benjamin, have you noticed, I don't know if our viewers can see it, but a lot of the papers have a lot of red in them. I don't know, it's significant of
Christmas.
Symbolic of the season. So I have the Mirror with me, and I have the Daily Dispatch with me. So on the front page of the Mirror, it reads, "Cohesion, love must prevail at all times." And that's attributed to Professor Kofi Ejekum. Also, "Let's embrace peace." That's a call from the clergy. And we have a beautiful picture of Franklina Smith, a banker, model, and entrepreneur, as she gears up for Christmas. That's for the Mirror.
That's a beauty right there.
Right.
I said it. So I'll start from the end of the Daily Graphic, and it says, so Akufo-Addo to swear second term oath in Parliament. And recently there's been a lot of talk about this, about what the Constitution says, about how apt it would be, especially as we are battling COVID-19 and all of that. Usually we go to the Black Star Square and do it, but this time round, it's going to be different. Let's see what happens moving forward. Uphold peace, unity at Christmas. Christian leaders admonish Ghanaians. I found this interesting story that I'll be delving into. Reducing number of ministers, a grounded hope. Reducing number of ministers, a grounded hope. And yesterday I had a discussion with Lucy Enin, who actually was in the... Yes, the first parliament of the First Republic.
Yes.
She's 82.
Right.
She served under Nkrumah, representing the Brong-Ahafo region. And back then, I mean, the representation was wider for each person. So she was representing the entirety of the Brong-Ahafo region. An interesting, discussion I had with her. One of the things she mentioned, she doesn't feel we need all of these ministers. So
I think that's something that's dear to Ghanaians. A lot of people have questioned why the government ought to have more than 100 ministers. I mean, it comes at a cost to the state. So obviously people are worried about that. And just recently, I believe when the minority leader, Haruna Iddrisu, interview with Joseph Opoku-Kapo, our parliamentary correspondent, he also made the same point. And he was actually giving them an ultimatum that any government which is sworn into power next year should have no more than 70, I believe.
I recall he may have said 80.
Okay, 80.
I think that's his magic number.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I hope that the government will listen to the calls. And what else do you have? Well,
in the middle spread, it says copies of 2020 transitional handing over notes presented to Chief Justice. Government places ban on contractual agreements and appointments. On the back page, Al Hilal Stan Kotoko in Accra, that's in sports. And these two have a history, Al Hilal and Kotoko. Well, this time around, it was, the Al Hilal team that was on top. So that's it for the major stories in the Daily Graphic.
Okay, all right. So let me go back to the Mirror because I only talked about the front page stories. But when you go inside, page 2, there's a story that says a political party's paraphernalia nuisance after election. So obviously, I mean, you see a lot of these paraphernalia pasted around a lot of the, state institutions, which is very worrying. There must be some sort of plan to remove all of these afterwards because it really doesn't make the town look beautiful. It
disfigures, after every election, our cities and towns are left disfigured in a way. Yeah. We're trying to make Accra, for example, clean, but just you go around. And do you know what's even worse?
No.
I saw some videos and photos, I think even close to our workplace. The electric cables themselves, the one on the streets, some people managed to hang their parties, banners and flyers and what's not on them.
There should be a plan going forward. Right after the election, the Metropolitan Assembly should put in a plan to ensure that all these posters and flyers are removed because really, it is a nuisance.
What do you think of this? anywhere we find an NPP or NDC flyer or whatever, how about we hold the parties responsible?
Definitely.
I think if moving forward we did that after every election, ensure that all your posters, those that belong to your party, are removed.
I think it should
your
come
people
with a sanction.
posted them, right?
It should come with a sanction so that they are forced to ensure that their posters are removed.
Right.
All right. Also in the Mirror, the middle pages, Jude Hammer marks 40 years in the Lord's ministry. And Jude Hammer, let me get some details about him. He is being celebrated here in the graphic. In the Mirror, I beg your pardon. He is a man of God, and I think he's someone who has been very instrumental in the Lord's business. So he's been celebrated for, 40 years in the Lord's ministry. And there's a whole lot you can read about him in the middle pages of the Mirror.
And mentioning the Hammer name, I'm sorry to say this, but in recent times,
yes,
the Hammers were at it.
Yes.
Lord Hammer and his sister, and it wasn't pleasant. I don't want to get into what they were
back and forth
discussing
on interesting.
I don't know whether it was on Facebook, but for me, it was
on
just
Twitter. It was on Twitter. It was a Twitter fight between brother and sister, but it was interesting the way it was going. But I guess at a point in time, they were told to restrain themselves.
I think that was in totally poor taste.
Exactly.
Some of the things that were said, no. In a way, it reminded me also about Samia and her brother and how they get at each other's throats sometimes.
So I guess you could call it sibling rivalry.
Yep.
Yes, okay. Still in the Mirror, also in the middle pages, Accra, Comerica light up for Christmas. This is wonderful. And every year, Jandel, in collaboration with the Metropolitan Authorities, embark on this project to light up the major cities. So this year it's Accra and Kumasi, or Comerica, and it's so beautiful. If you take, I
think we should take a look at the middle spread of the Mirror newspaper. Yes. Let me do this.
Okay.
And beautiful, beautiful. Just take a look at these shots and the colors and everything. Just take a look. The excitement. Accra, Comerica light up for Christmas. Great. So very interesting. I would love to be here. Look at this car.
Yes. I wonder how they were able to light up the car, a whole car. But it's beautiful. So the whole point is that, people, families can go to these places and then take pictures, in celebration of the season. So, yeah.
This actually reminds me of Christmas in Manhattan.
Manhattan?
Yes.
In the U.S.?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Places where, you would have, beautiful. And I love the fact that we're doing this as Christmas.
Yeah.
Especially on the back of the elections and all the anxiety, tension people have felt. I think this will, ease people's minds.
Definitely.
Any more you're doing from the Mirror?
Okay, let me just do this because it's Christmas, Christmas Eve today. There's a lifestyle section in the Mirror talking about the Christmas hamper. I'm sure that a lot of you are a bit curious to know what you should put in a hamper to give as gifts to people.
I want to hear about that one.
People don't.
What do you put in a hamper?
Exactly. People don't know what to give to people sometimes because what do you give to people? Clothes, shoes, perfume. If you've given them the same things over the years, you might want to change your mind and all of that. So the Mirror, page 13, lifestyle section, has some tips on what to put in your hamper to give as gifts to your loved ones and friends.
Okay. So let's do this, but this was just a bit of a recap of the Mirror newspaper. You want to do, or is that the second one?
Okay.
That is the first. So let's do the headlines from the Daily Dispatch.
The Daily Dispatch, right. So the Daily Dispatch, major headlines. How will the winner impact their chances? NPP's 2024 flag bearership. So it's looking into the future. Already people have started dropping some names. Ben
Efson started doing this quite a while ago, so not surprising.
Right. And of course, some names have dropped. And on the front page of the Dispatch, you have a picture of Mr. Alan Chiramanting, the Trades Minister, who obviously contested Nana Akufo-Addo.
Right. He's contested twice, right?
Twice, yes. You have Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President. You have Mr. Kennedy Ejipong, Asin Central MP, and Joe Gatti, who is the Railways Minister as well. So all of these names have come up. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out in a few years, next year or so, when they really start jostling.
Right. And, you know, in terms of what Benefson put out there in his recent book, he says when you consider popularity in itself, you would have the Kennedy Japons, the Joe Gates, and others in there, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. But per his, survey at their last Congress in 2018, if you consider whom they would actually vote for, when they consider the lives of Kennedy Japon, they say there's too much going on about him. So while he's very popular...
There's too much going on about him. Be direct and exactly.
And so many things. They are afraid that such a candidate...
He doesn't sound presidential. Let's call a spade a spade.
Okay, not a big
MP. Even with his utterances, people have had cause to criticize him for the way he speaks, especially because he's a legislator. Right. He ought to know better in the way he speaks. So a lot of people have criticized him for that. So based on that, many don't think that he's the right fit for the presidency. The presidency is not just about popularity. It's also about how you carry yourself.
True.
And clearly he doesn't.
So per his research, when it comes to who would carry the day, good old Alan Cash is in pole position, even over the vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. And that is why it's... Oh, well, it's basically because, well, there are certain characteristics that those people were looking at. There are a number of them. I can't mention all of them. But based on those, they felt he would get the nod. And that would be reminiscent of what we saw, was it in 2004 or 8, with the former vice president, Aliu Mahama.
Yeah.
You get it. When he also went and placed a distant third. In fact, if you look at the numbers. So it's interesting, but we wait to see.
We wait to see that come into play. So we'll see how it pans out. But also on the front page of the Daily Dispatch, we have police ban NDC from further protests in Greater Accra till January 10, 2021. Clearly, I mean, this will be after the inauguration. So, but we spoke to the NDC yesterday on Joy 99.7 FM radio, and they made the point that they will contest this and continue their protest, their street protests, to protest as part of their rejection of the outcome of the 2020 polls. But
I find it interesting, though, because per our constitution, we have the right to demonstrate.
Right.
Demonstrate. I mean, yesterday when Roxanne Dafiamakpo was here, South Dine MP, he was saying that even what they are doing is a walk. I was trying to pin him down. What is the difference between a walk and a demonstration? But even if it were a demonstration, the Constitution guarantees it. So
yeah.
I think if it doesn't lead to violence.
But I've heard the Peace Council and I think the National House of Chiefs make the point that the numerous demonstrations are heightening tension.
Right.
That the NDC should rather resort to the courts.
To some extent, I agree with that.
Yes, exactly.
To some extent, I agree with that.
Even though they have a right to demonstrate, I guess around this time, everybody's tired. People just want to relax and enjoy the holidays. So perhaps they should, pull the brakes on that and then return after, the Christmas season.
Right. So let me take a look now at the Daily Searchlight. What are they searching for? What have they found? Akufo-Addo will be sworn in at Parliament. Deputy Minister for Information, Pius Hajide, saying that Mahama not declared president-elect disregard false video. That's according to the EC. Now, I'll just do that one because it's a brief one. The Electoral Commission has denied ever declaring former President John Dramani Mahama as the president-elect of Ghana after the polls. A video circulating on social media suggested that the commission had declared John Dramani Mahama as Ghana's president-elect, but in a statement from the Electoral Commission, it described the video as doctored and not a true reflection of what was declared. Have you stumbled on this video?
I haven't seen the video.
I haven't either, but it's an interesting development. Looming by-election as NDC MP-elect is fingered in dual citizenship blues. And this was going on even before the election. There's also this one, Acey's Corner. And I don't know who might need to hear this, but how your sex life changes after 60. Obviously, I have a long way to go on that one. Long way to go.
I'm sure a lot of people are interested. So how does your sex life change after 60?
You want to know?
Obviously, you're not as virile as in your 20s and 30s and maybe even 40s. But, well, I guess, or is it too early to have this conversation?
you know. So there's in the papers yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? There's a man who died in Koforidua.
Yes.
And he was doing the do. And he was, I think, over 60. Okay. And he was engaging in, you know,
with
a 25-year-old.
Yes.
I said there was a mismatch there. I think it was too much of a, you know. But if you are 60 plus, take it easy.
I saw a line on, was it Twitter or Facebook? Someone had written, he died in the line of duty.
Oh, that's a good one.
He died in the line of duty. So yeah, but you didn't give us.
Anyway,
tips. So a lot of people.
It says one of the myths of aging is that a satisfying and enjoyable sex life after 60 is impossible. Don't be fooled and don't be disheartened. As with most myths, this is one that has long since been disproved. I don't want you to get all the filler and not buy the paper, but the first bit says, the truth is many people enjoy a healthy sex life well into their golden years. Let me just leave it there. It means your golden years after 50, 60, you can still have a healthy sex life. But I think one thing it hinges on is also the bit about treating your body well, right, so that as you age, your body can sustain itself in such.
Comes in.
Exactly. Your heart. If your heart is not strong enough,
exactly.
Don't push it.
Exactly. But others, you know, choose the other route. They use Viagra and other, you know, means to get to that particular end. And
so I think that is it for the daily searchlight. Let's do something from this.
So also on the back page of the Dispatch, we have state sues 11 NDC MPs for illegal march to the EC offices. And as you know, on Wednesday, the NDC MPs marched to the EC's offices at Ridge. They were prevented by the police from entering the premises. And some of them even, you know, went into a scuffle, had a scuffle with
I heard something, shoot us,
police.
Shoot us. You know, there was this bit where, and I was thinking, why would you want to say that? Because if that happens, then there would be...
Right. So the state, as reads, the state represented by the Ghana Police Service has dragged Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu and 10 other opposition MPs to court for embarking on a march to the EC office. The other 10 are Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka, Samuel George, John Abdullahi Jinapo, Roxanne Nelson, Dafia Mepo, Ras Mubarak, Mutawakilu Adam, Ebenezer Oklete Telabi, and Dr. Kwabena Donko, as well as Bashir Al-Hassan Fuseni and Kwabena Minta Akando.
Araba, what are the charges? There are two things I'm concerned about. What are the real charges? And look, will this end up anywhere?
Well, let me see whether the charges were included. Well, no, they didn't include the charges. But I suppose because they said it's an illegal march, basically they didn't notify the police.
The NDC says it's Roxanne yesterday said they notified, you know, Parliament has its own police. Right. They notified the divisional police. They wrote a letter to the EC. Well, what more are you looking for? At least from this angle.
All right, okay. We need to go to myjoyonline.com now.
Right. So let's quickly do My Joy Online. Well, we'll have to do that at some other time. But it's time now for Sports on the AM show. Araba, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For joining us.
I'm still staying here with you. I'm not going anywhere.
Yes, at least seeing you is refreshing, and your yellow is dashing.
Yes.
The sports is up next on the AM show. Do stay with us.